Interesting discussion. We're getting hearing from Lauren Hobson this morning. Apparently, Doug Harris actually said he didn't think he could support a balanced calendar.
What?
Uh-oh. Are there cracks forming?
Oh.
Oh, it's Doug Harris, so I don't know. May not actually mean anything. Remember him? Yeah, neither do I. Doug Harris actually said he didn't think he could support the balanced calendar. It said if it was going to cost millions of dollars when we're already short money for teacher raises and existing programs. Wow. Did the common sense fairy come over and smack Doug Harris upside the head? Maybe there's hope. Lauren goes on to say, finally, someone's saying we should pay for the stuff we already committed to before we start spending money on something else. Patty Bounds also questioned how 10 extra days spread throughout the year would actually help close the achievement gap for low-income students. Yeah, many people are questioning that. 10 extra days. Yeah. Lauren says her question is, what will be more successful at closing the achievement gap? 10 extra days in the school or actively doing what it takes to retain experienced teachers? Here's the weird thing, though. Apparently, the way you look at the administration, how they've acted over the past few years, apparently the teachers are just a very small part. In fact, a fairly insignificant part, I guess, of the teaching experience, of the educational experience. Anybody can teach, right?
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Go in, as long as you just go in and follow whatever your outline is, whatever your rubric has to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's like putting together furniture from IKEA. It's simple.
Yeah, because, you're right. Because each child comes with a manual that's just like all the others. You look at one manual for one child.
Yeah, you've seen them all. You've got
takes care of all of them, and you put together a child just the way you put together that from IKEA.
Absolutely.
That's
every parent knows that. I mean, you take 2 kids, let alone 200 kids, let alone 2 million kids, put them all in a big room and just talk to them exactly the same. They all learn the exact same stuff at the exact same speed. They all have the exact same interest, and they all react the exact same way.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. They're just like little carbon copies of one another.
Sure.
I mean, parents know that from their own kids.
Yeah.
When you have more than one child, one of the first things that strikes you is just, wow, this is just like the other one.
They're all exactly the same. They think the same. They speak the same. Everything's exactly the same.
Like God just said, copy, paste.
Yeah. Remember when we were kids apparently I'm Peter Brady this morning. Remember when we were kids and we had Weeble Wobbles?
Yeah.
Remember those things?
Yeah.
Yes.
Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down.
Absolutely.
Little egg-shaped people.
I loved them.
They just were, they just were painted different, but they looked exactly the same,
Absolutely.
and they did the exact same thing. That's all kids are. They're just little living forms of Weeble Wobbles. They're exactly the same. They're exactly the same. They all fit in the same hole. They learn the exact same way. That's all it is.
Well, I'm glad we can all agree on that and move on now.
Please. Good Lord.
You're saying you don't agree?
No.
Hillary Clinton was a great Secretary of State.
We can all agree that Hillary Clinton was a great Secretary of State.
Just like we can all agree that all kids are exactly
the
Really?
same. They learn at the exact same pace. They have the exact same interests. They're all exactly the same. Look, I have 3 kids. I couldn't have 3 more different individual human beings if I went and handpicked them from different parts of the world. That's what makes them exciting. That's what makes them incredible people, is they're all 3 so amazingly different.
Mm-hmm.
They have some similarities. They have some things they do.
Sure.
But there are far more differences than there are similarities.
Sure.
And I look at all, and then, our kids are fairly spread out in age, so we've gotten to see them all through different parts of school at different times, And they've all had their own set of problems, their own set of, successes. They've had all their own things, and all their interests have been completely different. You know?
Isn't it amazing how they all react to the same thing differently?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like I said, you couldn't find three more diverse and differing individuals. And I look at them all and go, they amaze me because I learned so much from them, and I see the world through three completely different set of eyes.
Right.
You know, and they're frustrating, and they're exciting, and they're a pain in the butt, and I love each and every one of them because they are that way. Because one will go to school and go, okay, it's easy, huh? Go through, easy, do all the homework, great. Another one, sit down, take any test, pass it with 100. Homework, oh, dude, that's boring. That's boring. Why can't you? Nah, it's boring. Another one, do all the homework, do really well, get to a test. I can't do a test. Lock up. Grew up in the same household, grew up with the same parents. Three completely, terribly different people. You know? Lauren also finished up by saying, in regard to the teacher survey, the statistics may look favorable for the school system, but over 300 fewer teachers took the survey. The hundreds of teachers that left last year surely had an impact on the result. 60-plus pages of comments don't seem to mirror the glowing statistics that the superintendent is touting. I mean, look, you know, when you have a, quote, survey, and unfortunately watching closely how they've done their surveys so far, you know, anything that comes out of the administration now as far as their data from the surveys, I have to question. Because it's easy when you muddy up the pool to then go back through and just cherry pick and hand pick the stuff you want to pick out and say, look, this looks good, and this looks good, and this looks good. Or if you make sure that you word a question a certain way so that you lead them to some sort of an answer that you want to get, you know, as opposed to here's the question, and here's all the answers you can give. No. We'll hand you some answers that you can choose from. Choose the one that's closest to what you think. You know, you got to question every single bit of data that comes out of any of their surveys. And here's the thing: we sat here less than 2 months ago with him on this show. Heard that the Balanced County was just in the planning stages. We're not ready to make a decision. We're just looking at things.
No hurry on this.
No hurry. Yeah, there's no hurry. We find out now that Superintendent McIntyre will make a decision by July on whether to recommend the balanced calendar or not. Mm-hmm. He will make a decision. They discussed the balanced calendar survey returns at last night's session. And again, it's the same survey that we questioned the validity of, because anybody could take it, and it wasn't in my opinion, it wasn't a qualified survey. It is not a qualified survey. Period. Myself, Mike Howard, should not have been able to vote in that survey.
That's what I started. I had no business taking that survey.
I had no business to be able to take that survey.
No.
And the one time I went through it, I didn't fill out a single answer. I just went through it to see if I could actually go through the whole survey.
Yeah.
The only thing that it made you answer was whether or not, the only thing you had to answer was what was your relation to the Knox County school system.
Right.
That's the only thing that you had to answer. Everything else I left blank.
You could have told them anything on that
So
one.
all my survey did that I put in, I don't think I submitted mine. But if I would have submitted mine, all mine would have done was just add to the number of people who took the survey. Because I gave them no answers. But they could have said, we had an overwhelming amount of people take the survey. Doesn't matter that half of them were taken by some idiot radio guy who didn't fill an answer out, but we had an overwhelming number of people take the survey. How's that sound? He said up to now they were just talking about a possible calendar switch, but now McIntyre says they're talking about more specifics. which means cost, which means a lot of cost.
Yeah.
And 10 extra days. And just shifting the calendar around. What do you get from 10 extra days and a lot more money spent? You're not going to get a better school. You're not going to get a better education. You're going to get a lot more money, and you're going to get a messed up calendar. Here's the problem with it. As good as a balanced calendar may have been, and as many positives I may have thought there was in the program, the way they've gone about it makes me say this is probably the worst thing they could do. Because it's not going to fix anything. And it's just going to cost more money. And the way you've gone about it, it's just shady. It's shady and it's wrong. Quick break. When we get back, we'll find out what Steve wants to talk about. We'll find out what you want to talk about as well. 865-243-TALK, 243-8255. Good morning. You're on the Rude Awakening.
Good morning, guys.
Hey.
Let me just start off by saying that sarcasm is man's way of keeping his sanity, right?
Absolutely.
Well, you guys sound a little like you might think that our illustrious superintendent is a little disingenuous or maybe even dishonest.
No.
What kind of idea?
Where would you get that?
Lord knows where you could get that from. I mean,
Jeez.
such a wonderful guy and how he treats other people
Right.
compared to, how he cares about himself. I mean, this guy just, I think maybe God may have picked him to come down here and help us.
I think so.
Us dumb country people, we brought him down from, where was it, New Jersey or Boston or somewhere?
Boston, yeah. Boston.
And he's showing us dumb country Southerners how we should live our lives.
Well, he's fixed our schools. He's made our kids smarter.
Oh, yes, he's doing such a wonderful job. Wonderful job.
Yes,
I tell you what, I hope he's doing such a wonderful job that somebody else will hire him and get him the hell out of here.
Steve, thank you. Thank you very much, Steve. We appreciate it. I think that's always been, and here's the thing, all jokes aside, I think that's always been the focus. This is just the stepping stone. This is the resume patter, as it were. It's not so much about us. It's about how can I go down and put these things in motion, say, hey, look what I did down here. I fixed these backwoods hillbillies. I went down there. They didn't have shoes. They didn't count higher than 20 because that's how many fingers and toes most of them had. Had a little bit of rain yesterday. What's it going to do today? Well, look for a morning shower in some spots. Otherwise, some clouds giving way to some sun by this afternoon. High today in the low 80s. Get ready, though. Humid, sticky.
Oh, it was humid yesterday.
Man, starting Sunday, I remember walking out. At one point Sunday evening, I thought, is there something burning in my neighborhood? Because I walked out and it was just kind of just hazy. And it was almost to the point where it looked smoky. And I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, it's just haze in there. I mean, it was just thick. It's thick. And then it was all day yesterday, just thick. And all of a sudden, sure enough, got to the point where it was so heavy. Boom. Thunder boom was yesterday. Rain pouring down. I mean, just pouring down.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
It was as if somebody went, dump some water here, now. I mean, it was just come a gully washer, as they used to say.
And it lasted.
I'm not sure who said that, but somebody did.
It lasted all of 12 minutes.
Yeah. Just dumped.
It did.
Dumped. Well, today, look for a few showers, but sun by the afternoon. We are though going to see humid conditions settling in. Tomorrow, a little bit better, mostly sunny and pleasant, not as humid, but a little warmer as we're going to see highs creeping into the mid-80s. Low tomorrow night back into the upper 50s. Low tonight under partly cloudy skies, upper 50s. Thursday, a morning shower possible, otherwise more clouds than sun. High for your Thursday, tipping right around the 80-degree mark. Low Thursday night in the low 50s. So we're going to see a little bit of a cooling trend as we go on through the week. Friday should be probably the nicest day we see. Calling for sunny and nice, high in the mid to upper 70s. Low Friday night in the mid 50s. And then by Saturday, partly sunny. A few passing showers or two. But look for a high as we get back into that summer-like pattern. Humid and hot and A few passing showers, high in the low to mid 80s. Low Saturday night back up into the 60s, mid 60s. So there you go. Kind of planning out the week for you. Yeah, during the break there, we were talking a little bit about the balanced calendar thing. Dr. McIntyre saying last night at the board meeting that he will make a decision by July whether to recommend the district move to a balanced calendar, because it's his decision to make. It doesn't matter what parents, teachers, students. He's gathered all the data, and he said it's very positive. And that's the thing, I was really, really hoping. So he said he'll make a decision by July. I was really hoping that they were going to be actually upright and forthcoming about the whole balanced calendar thing. It sounded really good at the beginning that they were going to go ahead and gather all the information. They were going to talk to the parents. They were going to get all the information out there, and then they were going to get the reaction from everybody that this involved, and have discussions about it and talk to people about here's the good things with it. Here's the pros, here's the cons, here's the whole deal laid out for you. Here it is. If the whole purpose and plan at the beginning, which we kind of said, well, maybe it's just this. If the whole purpose and plan was, look, I've seen this and I want to do it, then just do it. Quit wasting all the time and the money. Because that's all it's been. It's been a waste of time and money. It's been an exercise in futility. It's been all for show. Hey, we had some meetings and we made sure that it was confusing so when people didn't know when to show up, and we had a survey that was a joke. And we've gathered all the data and now we're going to make a decision. No, just say, look, it's my decision to make and I'm going to make it. Whether you like it or not, tough. Because I don't work for you. I work for myself. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much research to start looking through and say, okay, let's see where this idea of a year-round calendar, a balanced calendar. Year-round schooling has been present since the 1900s. It's not
Really?
a brand new thing. It's a fairly old thing. It first started appearing in urban areas because they weren't attached to agricultural cycles.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah. First towns to implement year-round schooling. You want to guess? Chicago, D.C., Cleveland, Buffalo, Detroit, and Boston.
Aha.
Boston. Where was McIntyre from? Oh, Boston. That's right. Look, that's fine. There are some very positive things about year-round schooling, or some positive things about a balanced calendar. This isn't year-round schooling; it's balanced calendar. There are some positive things. There are some negative things. The problem is that conversation was never allowed to happen. Really, it never really was. You can say, "Oh no, no, it wasn't allowed to happen," because it wasn't an open and honest discussion. It was, here's where we want you. We're going to lead you to where we want you to make your decision. You might as well just say, look, it's this or nothing. At least that's a little more, that's not as disingenuous. It's this or nothing. It's my way or the highway. If you had already planned that this is what you want to do, then just own up to it and say, this is what we're going to do. Doesn't matter what you want, doesn't matter what you think. It's what we're going to do because I've decided it. I have thus spoken. It has thus been decreed. But we went through the whole rigmarole of, hey, we're going to pretend like we're having a meeting and we're gathering data. No, I'll decide by July. Gee, I wonder what his decision is going to be. I wonder what his decision is going to be. I hope he decides to not do it just to spite me and to make me wrong. Because at least then, people can then have an open and honest discussion about it if it's something they want to do later on.
Well, doesn't it really still have to go before a vote, before the school board?
Maybe. Unless we can figure out some way to work around that. And we figured out a way to work around the state law saying that, he can't approve grants and speak for the county and the school board without their approval. He just says, when the law director says this is the law, and you say, okay, I'll abide by the law, which is what most people say, but instead you say, I don't agree with your opinion. It's not an opinion. It's the law. I don't get stopped for doing 75 in a 55 zone and go, I don't agree with your opinion that I was speeding. No, sir, you were going 20 miles over the speed limit. I don't agree with that. Well, the speed limit's 55. I don't agree with your limit.
Go to a judge. Say that in front of a judge.
Yeah.
Seriously. Really.
We have differing opinions. No, no, no. You have the law and what's not the law. So, I guess it's got to go before a vote of the school board. But the problem is now you got members of the school board saying, I don't know if I can support this because we keep writing all these checks and there's no money left. We keep promising all this money for stuff and you don't have any left to pay for it.
Wasn't there a cost involved with making the switch to the balanced calendar?
Yeah, we heard anywhere from $0 to $20 million.
$20 million. How much was one of those schools?
Which one? One was 30, one was 60.
Okay, let's take $30 million. So we're considering making a move that would cost $20 million, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of resistance against that. A school, to alleviate overcrowding, just a mere $10 million more. We don't have the money for that. Now, $20 million to make the switch in the calendar, not a problem.
Oh, keep in mind too, we also learned from the mayor last week that the county has given them $53 million.
Yeah, over the last 4 years.
Yeah, $53 million. Where it went, you could have paid for a school and a balanced calendar if it was such a great thing. But here's the thing: your balanced calendar consists of 10 more days. Go find some of these students that are falling by the wayside and ask them how 10 more days of school will actually fix whatever's wrong. With the fact that you're losing teachers, that you're pushing teachers out that should be teaching because that's what they do. Teachers teach until they decide they can't teach anymore because either they can't do it or they're not being allowed to do it. And it's sad when you're in a system that doesn't allow you to do your job as well as you can do it. Eventually you just go, I can't do this anymore because it breaks my heart to come here and not be allowed to do my job. We're very lucky that we get to do what we do here and we're able to do it in this environment because we don't have some corporate entity sitting above us saying, well, down here in this part of the country, we do things this way. And that's the way you should do it down there because people just like that. How much does that sound like? You should teach kids this way because all kids learn the same. All kids learn at the exact same pace. When people turn on the radio, they all want to hear the exact same thing. This is what they want because this is what our research tells us. Well, that's what we keep hearing. So either we're too stupid to realize it's true, or, surprise, surprise, we're people with brains and we use those brains on occasion and go, hey, you know what? This just doesn't fit. This doesn't make a lot of sense. So if you take teachers and go, hey, you know what? You can teach, but the way you're doing it is completely wrong. I know how to teach because I've read all the research and I've gathered all the data.
One of the things that's happened in schools is there's a tremendous focus on the individuality of students and the way they learn. Individuality of teachers, though, has been removed. There were some teachers that you thought were great teachers, and it might have been a personality thing. Maybe it was the way they presented the material, the way they related to the student. Teachers are being told, you teach this way to everyone. And it makes teaching a much greater chore than it was before. When you were teaching the material to students, you were teaching students. Now you have to worry about teaching this curriculum, and everything has to be focused on that, not on the students learning. So we focus on the curriculum, and then we measure student learning by testing, but we have to take practice tests, benchmark tests, so that when they take the test, they're used to the testing standards, so they can then score better on the tests.
And what's amazing in all this, and what we've seen, especially recently, you want to take it and run these teachers through the ringer, run them through their evaluations, make them feel as if they're apparently less than whatever image they have of themselves. You're just another wheel in the machine. You're just another cog. If something happens to you, I can pull you out and replace you with something that looks just like you and does the exact same job. You're not that special. You're just a teacher. So we run them through that evaluation process. We run them through the ringer. We make them feel less than human. Your style of teaching just doesn't work. It doesn't work in today's society. I had teachers in my life that would probably be laughed out of most school systems like this because they just didn't teach right. They didn't follow the rubric. They were a little out there. And I learned more from those teachers, not just about the subject, but about myself and about life in general. And they actually made me love learning. Ask kids today how many of them truly love learning. The sad fact of the matter is you're going to get very few kids that say they love going to school just to learn. There's nothing to love anymore. There's no heart to it anymore. There's no feeling behind it anymore. There's nothing. You're just a data point on a piece of paper. And I know people go, it's not about... No, it is about that. It's about how you learn. It's about making kids want to be part of an educational system. Think about the teachers you had, the teachers that stand out in your mind, the teachers that may have gone above and beyond what you thought they should have done, because they actually showed you that they cared about you and about what happened to you. You weren't just a name on a roll sheet. You weren't just a set of numbers that made up your grade. You were who you are, and that made you special to them. We're losing those teachers because they're being told that's not the way you teach kids. And if you don't like it, then go away.
Yeah.
I got a text coming in, or an email coming in from someone that's done some digging into this. I'll read it to you coming up. It's very interesting. It's very revealing. And that's the amazing thing about all this. As of late, I was trying to say, we hold these teachers through all these evaluations and hold these teachers to all these standards, and yet when it comes to evaluating the superintendent, well, I got to agree with my evaluation before we get it. I'm not going to agree with it. If I don't agree with it, then it's not valid. Ask these teachers how many of them agree with the way you evaluate them, the methodology you take. You should be held to the exact same standards, if not higher. Why? Because you're over all of them, whether you agree with it or not. And you know who should evaluate you? Not the school board, the members of this community. Would you pass that? Might be close. 7:25, Daniel's coming up. If you want to weigh in, 865-243-TALK, 243-8255. Less than a minute away from Todd Starnes. Of course, Denny Mac going to text box to take me to task, saying he's tired of us talking about the Knox County schools. Well, unfortunately, for a lot of people, that is an important thing, and it's happening right now. And believe it or not, this is a local radio show, and we focus on a lot of local things. Rather than complain about it, why don't you bring something to the table that you want to talk about, and we'll be happy to talk about that as well. But this is happening right now, and it's about to happen without anybody even doing or saying anything. So a lot of people are concerned about it. So that's what we're going to talk about. Right now, Todd Starnes is going to talk to you about something he's concerned about. What? Well, you'll have to listen. Stay tuned. More of the Rude Awakening coming up. Phone number 865-243-TALK, 243-8255. Daniel, good morning. You're on the Rude Awakening.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good, man.
That's good. So two things I wanted to try to touch on as quickly as I can, then let you guys talk about it. But as far as for the issues with the education system, to that person who texted in about being a Knox County issue, it's a nationwide issue. My father is an employee for the state of Georgia, which is where I'm from, and he is the director of data analysis. And one of the things he told me a few years ago is that the education system, at least in Georgia, is completely failing the students in the way of, understanding that, there are differences as far as, the way boys will learn versus the way girls will learn, and how individual students need, different, one size does not fit all for the students. And that's one of the things he's pointed out to me in the past is that, it's just not a good system set up. The other thing is, and I think I talked to Trey about this last time he had the superintendent on.
Yeah.
About the $53 million. I saw this documentary about how much money goes to each school system. And now, granted, they're talking about New Jersey, and so I decided to research Tennessee a little bit. And I think the average cost of a student in the state of Tennessee per year is around $10,000 to $13,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And so you start doing the math on that, you figure out, what the average student classroom size is. You subtract out whatever the cost is for your average teacher salary in Tennessee, and I think it begs the question of what happens to that extra money.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a calculator on me as I'm driving, but, you figure $13,000 times, what's the average classroom, 25, 30 people?
Sure.
Subtract that about a $30,000, $40,000 salary, and then you're wondering, well, what happens to the rest of that money? And I'm surprised we're not out with, out rioting, honestly, over this. The amount of money they said, $53 million goes to Knox County, and they can't build a school. They can't, agree on any of these things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's criminal, to be quite honest with you. And I think that maybe next time we have Knox mayor on, Mayor Burchett, get him to maybe answer those questions a little bit. Why is it that this money's not being accounted for? If they have so much funding, where is it all going from? Because it's ridiculous.
Sure, absolutely, and we see every year every time there's a budget, usually the lion's share of the budget does go to. In fact, not usually, the lion's share of the budget goes to education every year.
Yeah, and I don't care if they get that money. I mean,
No.
I'm all for funding, but just spend it the way it's supposed to be spent. Don't sit here and say we need school money when all your board members are showing up in luxury cars. I mean, that's bullcrap. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You're a service.
You're absolutely right, Daniel. We appreciate the phone call. Daniel makes some very good points there. And then we've asked about that. Why is this money should be accounted for to the penny? It's taxpayer money. You should know exactly where that money is spent and how it's spent and why it's being spent that way. You should have that. You should have that ability to know that information because it's your money. And what's funny is then we get a text in like this. Well, must be time for ratings. That's usually when you run the superintendent in the ground. I predict you'll talk about race next. Well, Dane, unfortunately, that's not the way radio works. Okay? It's not like TV. There aren't certain times for ratings. And to be honest with you, I could care less about ratings. We talk about things that come up as they come up. And no, we're not going to talk about race next, even though if you'd like to, you're more than welcome to bring it up. But, please keep in mind, you're the one that brought up race this morning, not anybody else. We're talking about this because the school board meeting was last night. And because the superintendent basically said by July he's going to run this thing through. We don't run down the superintendent. We talk about his actions and his decisions. All right. Why? Because there's a lot of money attached to that to the people here in this county. And Denny Mac, you're absolutely right. I don't live in this county. My kids don't go to school here. Does that mean I shouldn't talk about this? No, it makes me able to be objective in looking at this because I don't have anything tied into this. I have nothing tied into this. I don't have any type of stake in this school system. I don't. I have nothing tied in this school. It's the fact that I work here and I'm concerned about the people that work around me and the people that send their kids to school here because you should be treated better. You should have better than what you have right now. People think this is important. Why? Because there's a lot of money attached to it. And why is it even more important than that? Because it's about their kids. It's about their kids. You know? It's about their kids. We have some interesting... we have an email coming up here that we're going to read to you in a little bit about this. We'll read it to you in just a little bit. Right now, though, we're going to take a break from what we're talking about. Why? Because, as you know, it's Tuesday morning. It's just after bottom of the hour. We need to take a little bit of the pressure off. So, PR machine has been saying such glowing things about. So I searched for particular terms like respect. It shows up 16 times. Only once positively. These are in the responses from the survey. Teacher survey. Admittedly, one other time it's positive in regard to the school, but not to the district. The other 14 instances, it's not good. How about value? I counted 31 times. The context, crushing lack of feeling valued or not being able to value things being forced upon them. We teach our students to be fair, so I looked up fair. I honestly don't remember seeing it without un or not attached to it. I checked tested, but after 100 references of testing, but after 100 references gave up. This is hard stuff to read. This is hard to read because it's some of my colleagues, certainly many of them, and they feel crushed and unlistened to. And despite that crushing heartbreak, they're still trying to reach out with the information they have, just hoping someone's listening to and going to do something about it. I don't know much of it I can trust because stuff is missing. It's being asked the wrong way. It's not the same people answering, etc., and so forth. But what I can take away from it isn't refreshing. I hope everyone can see that we have a long, long way to go. We are not done fixing things, and we're still only treating some symptoms, not the causes. The data says things are looking better, but it definitely doesn't say it looks good. This is from a teacher in the system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we talk about it so much, and that's why it's so important, because this affects not only the teachers that are in this system, but it affects the kids that go through this system and the families that are a part of this system. There's a problem. There is a major, major problem with this system, this school system, the way it's running right now, and it starts at the top and moves down. You know, we can talk about all sorts of national, international news and things like that, but the problem is this is happening right now in this city, in this county. And the people that have the ability to fix it are you, the people out there listening to this, the people that are paying for this system, the people that have kids in this system. You know, if you don't want me to talk about it anymore, we won't talk about it anymore. We'll talk about other stuff. We can find all sorts of things to talk about. This is very important, though. It's important to me because I care about the people in this county. I care about the kids that go through this system. You know, whether I should or not, I guess it's up to you to decide. But it's an important thing, and it's being. I believe that you're being misled. I believe that someone's taking money directly out of your pocket. I honestly think that. And I've tried for a long time not to think that, but I think it's just absolutely done with malice. I think it's done with much planning, and I think it's done incredibly vindictively. And the only power I have is that we can talk about it. You know? Which in a lot of cases doesn't add up to a lot. But I think you're being misled. I think you're being robbed from. I think someone's not only robbing from you your hard-earned money, but I think somebody is robbing your kid's education from you as well. And I think that is an absolute horrible crime right there. They're taking your kids' future and their education and flushing it down the toilet. But, you know. Our number 865-243-TALK, 243-8255. Some interesting stuff coming up here in this last hour. Wounded Warrior. Always looked at it as a great organization, done a lot of good things for a lot of people. Some things coming out about the Wounded Warrior Project that aren't very flattering. Mm-hmm. And it's sad because, again, it's a situation where you have a great organization, a great cause, a great focus being hurt by the people because of the organization. And we'll let you know what's going on there. This coming out recently from a lot of different media sources. What's going on with Wounded Warrior? And you know, something came to me as we were talking a little bit ago off air. We're spending all this time now focusing on helping Iraq recapture Ramadi. Before we do that, can we reclaim Detroit first? Can our government do that first? Because we just gave up on that city and walked away from it.
Yeah.
Can we reclaim Detroit first? Can we actually make it a functioning city again? And start helping some of these other communities out before we start worrying about what happens elsewhere and dumping billions of dollars into other countries? When does that happen? When is it our turn to reclaim stuff here in our country for the people that live here? I mean, does that happen anytime soon? Or are we just giving up that too? Our number 865-243-TALK, 243-8255. If you want to weigh in on anything, if you've got something you want to talk about, please feel free. You can also weigh in on the text box, something you want to discuss.